the gang called Gypsy. Gang and they come and get Gypsy. Gang and they come and get Gypsy. Gang. I met a Gypsy. Gang. I met a Gypsy.
It's like something that I started doing yoga. Like Ryno, I think, is like one of the dudes that really knows what he's talking about when it comes to dirt bikes. And I sort of like bought the whole yoga thing from him, and I've started doing it, and it really does like apply a lot, I think, to riding a dirt bike, like in just terms of knowing how to efficiently use your body, because it requires so much energy that if you know how to efficiently do everything, and then that can even be applied to like on the track, just like knowing how to efficiently use lines. Like that's what I think Porcel was so nasty at. Was just using super efficient lines and not really having to ride super hard. Kevin Windham was crazy good at that. But that's what, like, I see guys like Justin Barcia, and then I'm like, how does that dude do it? But yeah, that's just like...
Same as Tomac. Just like smashing into every single thing on the track.
Yeah, it's just like, that's just the style that they develop. And it's like, it's because it's all about getting into the flow and getting into that zone of, I'm not even thinking about if I'm wasting energy or not. I'm just riding the bike.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just how those dudes have to do it. I definitely know that like Barcia always rode like that. I used to see him because he was from upstate New York. So I saw him when he was on like 60s and 80s, and he always rode, because he was super small. So he rode like a little spaz, but he was crazy fast. And, but then he just took that twisted style like all the way through. And I remember like thinking he was never going to be able to ride a 450 like that, but he figured it out. He's like the only guy that can ride the Yamaha in America.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, dude, you're so right, man. And like, even because moto's such like I've actually got a guy coming on the podcast after you, and his name's Lachlan Giles, and he's literally a professor, but he's one of the best jiu-jitsu competitors in the world. And he's only 77 kilos, and he beat these like 130 kilo guys at like essentially the Olympics of grappling last year. But me and him would always have these interesting conversations, because it's real similar in that motocross is such like a heavy skill based sport, as well as like this physically like very demanding, and almost like the bigger and stronger you are, the better it sort of works. But it's like, when you've got a body type, like I'm not a Tyler Bowers type of guy, neither are you. So then you're like, okay, so if I just put all of my energies into the skills and the technique and the, like, then I don't necessarily need to change my body to be like that Tyler Bowers sort of type guy. Mm-hmm. But then I noticed that as soon as like motocross became fun for me again, after doing jiu-jitsu for a couple of years, because my body just developed in such a different way than it ever has. And then all of a sudden the riding became like way easier to me, and then I could just stay on the track longer, and then that gave me more time to think like, oh, what technique am I doing? What lines am I doing? So there's such like you just really have to be this overall G to be good at anything, I think. And it's like, you really can't neglect, just because it's like, oh, it's a skill sport, or I'm going to, have great technique. You can't neglect the physical side of it. Just because you're physically gifted doesn't mean that you can neglect the skill side of it. And it's like, yeah, you really just have to kind of have this. I feel like the people that are really good have these super open minds and will work on like every single part of themselves.
Yeah, I think that is something that, like, that mentality is something that, like, the elite dudes, like the guys that are the top 5 guys actually have, where, like, that open-mindedness, that's what you said, is, like, they, especially, like, understanding the bigger scope, the bigger picture, and, like, and I don't know, now I'm talking about, like, the pro guys, but, like, just, Jason Anderson one time said to someone, like, he said, you like not even care. Like, you can't like let that like ego, I guess, really affect you. 'Cause that's when you start making mistakes. And that's when, especially in Supercross, like that's when you eat shit.
Yeah.
And it really is like, you just have to, it's so funny because it's one of those things my dad used to say to me on the line of races is like, ride your own race. And when you're a kid, it like, that means nothing to you. Like that, I was just like, yeah, whatever. and now I'm like, oh my God, like that actually is like the secret, is to just like, whatever happens is just like, you just ride your own race. And if you're feeling it that day, you're feeling it. And if you're not, you're not. That's what I think. Like, you see Tomac where he has these like incredible rides and then sixth place rides. And even a lot of the guys have that same deal. Baggett, where it's like, he's the fastest guy on the track, or he's, you know, ninth place. And I think it is just like always going out there and just riding your own race and just finding the flow and finding the pace where you can just really get in